answer some of them?
I'm ready to listen to the questions.
Okay, we'll see where we get.
Yeah.
So, I kind of wanted to talk about dating, and dating today is, I mean, there's many different ways of meeting somebody, right? So, some of the examples I
All
have are like,
online though, aren't they?
yeah,
There's
or
like,
like, you swipe up on somebody's story on social media, or you'll swipe right on a dating profile, or,
mhm.
you know, you just try and spark up a conversation with somebody at a restaurant or a bar or wherever. So what did that look like for you?
Well, swiping in my day was meant you were stealing things, uh, and unless it was stealing somebody's heart, it didn't have a lot to do with dating. Uh, yeah, we uh, it was different. Of course, every person's dating life is different. Uh, I was, obviously very popular, so no, I can't. It was very isolated. But you went to school, and I went to a public school, and so and I went to church. So
Mhm.
going to school and church, there was a lot of people, and I'm a baby boomer, and we were at a time when we were just coming along. I'm almost the oldest. There's a year ahead of me for the baby boomers, so I'm like right behind that. But once
Okay.
we hit schools, we just kind of filled them up because there were so many of us, and classrooms went. The class size went up. Just everything went up because
Mhm.
of the baby boomers hitting the schools, and then church became, in the 50s, when I was growing up, church was very, very popular. In fact, on a Sunday morning, if you drove down the street and you saw somebody in their yard, especially if they were cutting their grass, you thought badly of them. Not being judgmental, of course, but
Mhm.
it's like, my goodness, they're not going to church. It just seemed odd. It wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah, and so with that, with going to, with having youth groups at church, and then all the kids you went to school with, there was things that happened.
Mhm.
I didn't. Oh my gosh, my mother tried to fix me up
Oh
when I was in
no.
the fifth when I was in the fifth grade with this nice person. She was a nice person, but in the fifth grade, I just wasn't quite ready for the ladies yet, and they certainly
How'd
weren't.
she try and set you up with somebody?
They certainly weren't ready for me. Well, she and her mom and Margaret, who's the girl, Margaret's mom and my mother got together and thought we should go square dancing every week. There was a square dancing thing at the park,
Okay.
and oh my gosh, I reveled in being a Southern Baptist because we didn't dance, and that was what I loved that about. Uh, it wasn't. It didn't have a lot to do with my holy conviction. It was just like, thank goodness I don't have to try to dance. But my mother went around that by this square dancing thing, and I had to
Mhm.
hold. You had to hold hands when you Alamand left and all those kind of crazy things, and oh, it was just torture. And I think she was probably taller than me. At least that's kind of my memory of
I feel
her.
like that age though, girls get taller
Yeah, yeah,
faster, so that is a rough time
yeah.
for
I
you.
kind of, I kind of shot up. In fact, the weird thing is, I shouldn't say shot up, but it was a more calm time. But I had a growth spurt
Okay.
uh, in
I
the
didn't have one of those, so
in
is I never got to that point.
in
So
the seventh grade. I was the tallest kid on the football team, and by
wow.
the eighth grade, I was the shortest. I was just I my growth spurt happened early, and it didn't go very far.
It stopped.
Yeah, and I was when I was playing football, I was just really having a good time playing football until I got to high school, and I was so small that I just got beat up like a rag doll. So that's when I learned to play golf. I switched over to golf. Nobody, nobody,
Less
unless
impact.
somebody hit me with a golf ball from 200 yards away, I was pretty safe. It was a whole lot better than being beat up in football every day.
My goodness. So did anything go anywhere with the girl you went square dancing with, or?
Yeah, we got married and had 5 kids. No,
Oh.
no, my gosh, she was. she did have a swimming pool, and in our neighborhood that was a really big deal. But but she never invited me to go swimming. So, and I think,
Well,
yeah, she wasn't any more into me, or she wasn't any more into square dancing than I was. We were pretty much prisoners on the floor on
horrible.
the hardwood out there.
Oh my
Oh
gosh.
gosh, it's just bad. But yeah.
Wow. Now, what kind of age were you when you started pursuing people or attempting to go on dates?
Well,
I don't know if there was a success story yet,
no,
so.
there was no, no, absolutely not, because there was, from 12 and 13, I had a great best friend named Tommy, and Tommy and I, we fantasized about dating a lot of people, and we were very shy, and we would kind of wait in the corner and leer at girls as they would go by, and why that didn't work. And then a couple of times we went to the movies and we sat behind some girls. So how these techniques didn't work on the
I'm
ladies.
shocked actually, because anyone I ever said yes to, that's exact. They just stared at me in a corner or sat behind me at the theater.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
just
well, of
tough
course,
luck.
that's how your mom would meet kids when she was little. She would she would be at a swimming pool or something, and she would just stare at this kid until next thing I knew they were like best friends. And it was just a
Wow.
weird technique that she had, but yeah,
That worked?
I guess it was her. It did for her. It didn't work for
Wow.
me. In fact, I just barely stayed out of being in trouble for some of our stuff. But finally, we started dating, both Tommy and I, and our parents drove us, which is
Wow.
talk about a buzzkill when you
That's rough.
when you're in the back seat and your parents are in the front seat, and both my parents would take us on things.
Wow.
So yeah,
Hmm.
and there was a lot of parent involved. Her parents, my parents, everybody knew each other, and yeah, you weren't getting away with a lot of stuff, and yeah, but and we always double dated, because Tommy got a car before I did, and
Okay.
he got his license before I did. In fact, he got his license at 14, and
Wow.
so yeah, so he got the family car fairly early, and so we just ran amok after that. And so he would drive, and I would help procure dates for him.
You're like, I'll bring the girls if you have the
Yeah,
car.
yeah,
Oh my
that he won't see this, so but that was kind of the way it was. I would get two girls and share one with him, and he would drive the car.
God, that is
So
awesome. Now, do you remember your first date?
um, mm, the first real date I had, yeah, was to a ninth grade dance, kind of a ninth grade prom. And it was junior high then, not middle school. And at that time, you went through the ninth grade, and then you went into high school after that. So yeah, I asked Joan, what's her whole name? But anyway, yeah, I asked a lovely girl, and she said
Hmm.
yes, and we had a great time.
How
And
fun.
yeah, and then we started going to movies and things, and so I would say she was my first date. I would say it was
Okay.
with her to
Now,
the
how about like outside of grade school? Do you remember like at least or a memorable date that you had or planned? Do you have any fun date stories?
outside of, you mean later
Like
on?
outside of like high school, like after high school.
Oh, oh my gosh. Well, yeah, in high school, I started going steady. So you started getting serious about girls, and I had there was one in particular that we were very much an item, very much a couple, and stayed a couple till I went off to Baylor, and yeah, and that was over. But yeah, that was a very strong dating relationship. We dated, exclusively at that point. Um, we'd have, I had this little ring that looked sort of like a class ring, but it was early, and she would wear my ring and all that stuff. So those
Oh,
things
fun.
happened, but
Was that kind of like wearing the Letterman jacket? Is that
yeah,
kind of that? Okay. How
yeah,
fun. Okay.
yeah, it was. And some people had bracelets, like ID bracelets, and they would exchange those. Different, different things. It was very kind of sweet and innocent.
Yeah. So
All
would
that
you
stuff.
usually, if you were going steady with somebody, would there usually be like some sort of item or piece of jewelry that y'all would wear to kind of show like I'm taken? Was that a normal thing?
Well, yeah, across the board, I mean, there were 500 kids in my graduating class, and so
Okay.
the dating habits of all 500, I wasn't really aware of. But yeah, it was pretty common to, if you, it wasn't a whole lot unlike Happy Days. I mean, that was kind of my
Okay.
time. And we did all the we went to the drive-in. Our school went to a drive-in with car hops and all that stuff on one side of the street. The other high school that was close to us, they went on the drive-in on the other side of the street. I mean, we didn't rumble or anything or
Right.
have throwdowns or anything, but but we did have our own. And this was more our place, and that was their place,
How cool.
and yeah, but it was very Happy Days like. It's kind of almost embarrassing, although it was wonderful. I just I wish it. I wish you could have those kind of could have had. You had a wonderful time, and but yeah, it was very neat to be in that time.
Yeah. Did you have any strict rules from your parents about dating, or was it kind of laid back?
My, I was always, um, my mother, they both had rules, and we were, but I mean, I grew up, I couldn't say ain't, the word ain't.
Mm-hmm.
Like my mother wouldn't let, she was very strict about even my language. And,
Well, my mom's like that too. The F word was fart forever. I thought the F word was fart.
right,
So I get it.
right. Well, the song "Ain't That a Shame" came out, and I would turn it on the radio, and it was a big breakout deal for me because I actually got to say "ain't." That's how on the edge I was in my whole breakout life. What a wild person I was that I got to say "ain't" one time with the song. But yeah, there was definitely she was and both of them were always very concerned that I was a little gentleman to the ladies, and I would do all the things that I stopped doing pretty early. But you know, just being respectful and because like I said earlier, the parents were all so close. They didn't want to get a call from somebody's mom or dad saying, "How come you know, your son did this?" And
Right.
yeah,
I feel like it's a beautiful thing to have like family, friends, and y'all are going out and because everyone knows each other, and oh, I trust y'all being at their house because we know them.
mm,
But then it can also, there's that downside of like, if this ends, can we all still be friends? Like,
oh yeah.
did that, or especially the girl that you went square dancing with, whenever y'all were like, we don't really want to date each other, guys, did that
No.
affect the family relationship at all?
That one didn't, but there were some, especially if I dated girls from church. And there was a long time when I didn't date people very long. I would date kind of, it was too confusing. It was too confusing for me to date multiple people at one time. So I
Okay.
would date them one at a time. I was like a serial dater. I would date like for 3 weeks and then I would move along. And
Okay.
I
I feel
had
like that's
options.
better than juggling four at one time,
Well,
I mean,
it was all my brain could handle. Uh, and fortunately, well, no, anyway, there were several girls with the same name, so that helped sometimes. But
gosh, that's awesome.
but yeah, a lot of this is a little bit uncomfortable to think about everything because I wasn't always the kind of person you'd like to think you were. When you think back about, yeah, I was kind of rude to people sometimes, and yeah,
I look back too and I'm like, gosh, Hallie Grace, you were kind of rude to some. I agree. I was like that too. I think we all go through our phases. You know, we have our awkward phases and we're like, gosh, I can't believe I wore that or said that or did that. And then you have, you know, that growing phase where you can be a little bratty, kind of rude sometimes to people. And
Yeah.
it's just life lessons and learning.
Well, a lot of mine was because I didn't want to get dropped. I mean,
Hmm.
honestly, I, I just would move along before that became an issue. I
Hmm.
dated one girl real early, and I got to school and she was with somebody else, and that was hurtful, and
Yeah.
so I didn't want that to happen again. So I think that probably colored a lot of the things that my habits of moving along pretty quickly and not sticking with anybody very long. And there were so many people. I think all
Right.
the girls felt the same way because there was just there were so many opportunities to date, and yeah,
I
it
feel
was
like
great.
that's kind of like that can be, again, there's pros and cons to that because I feel like growing up for me, it was a way smaller pool, you know, it was a
Yeah,
way smaller community. And so you're like, okay, I may kind of like this guy. How many other people have dated him though before? Like you're like, ooh, I don't want to,
yeah,
So you're hoping there's not too much like overlap, and so I feel like
right,
that could be nice. Like, okay, I didn't like this person, but there's 400 other people, that I could go out with, and that could be, especially for like a teenager, younger boy. I feel like they could be like, oh, shiny, shiny,
right.
that could be hard. So that's very interesting. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I think my observation is that so many of you guys do travel in groups, and I always
Mhm.
think that's so great that sometimes you don't even know who's dating who because it's like one little group that moves along, and I think that's very healthy and good because really you don't. A lot of people say you're in your 20s before you really, especially for guys, your brain doesn't really develop enough to be able to figure out what you're doing anyway, and so, yeah, I think it's very healthy to stay in a group not. Of course, my folks never wanted me to get serious. That was always something they were terrified of, is that I'd get married at 12 or something and run away with the circus, So,
Wow. Now, what age did you really start dating? Would you say you were taking it like more seriously? Were you
yeah.
still?
Well, 15 or 16, I was, and again, because of Tommy in the car, uh, yeah, we would go see movies and stuff. I got to take just a second here. I'm not right. I just getting all weepy. And it's not from these stories.
Is it?
I don't know what.
Oh, do you have
It's
like
like
a
an allergy.
tears? Oh
Yeah,
no.
it's like something. Yeah, it's just kind of weird. Yeah. I don't know how we're going to pick that up, but ask me another question.
Okay, hold on. Let's see. Oh, we'll ask like an ending question.
Okay.
Well, I've asked them all. I've been going off the rip, just asking what I want to ask.
Oh, great.
Let's see. What could a good closing question be? Do you have any bad dating stories that I could see if I could ask that? Do you have any
Well,
like just atrocious dates that happened?
uh, not from my point of view. I think there'd be a lot of females that would probably have a lot of good tragic stories and terrible
Maybe we
dating
can bring
stories.
some on as guests.
Yeah, we one of the things I mean, we didn't have any money, and so as long as we could put 82 cents worth of gas in Tommy's car, we could get around somewhat. And we would have a date, and we would go. One of the things that we did, there was a really tall building that was the Exxon. It's now the Exxon building, I guess, but it was the Humble building back then, and it was the tallest building in Houston. And they had if you went all the way up to the top, there was an observatory up there, and you could look around. And we would do that. We would like go up there and just look out. And of course, Houston being just flat, it wasn't like that's not very exciting. They would say you could see Galveston, if it was real clear. And, but we would do. There were interesting things, interesting places we would go, and but yeah, I can't. There wasn't anything really. That's funny that you asked me that, and I can't really think of a
That may be
terrible
a
thing.
good thing, though. I mean,
It
if
was
you
a
don't have any, that's
yeah,
really good.
it's a great thing, and it may just speak to my I sound like I just dated around the clock, but really, it was I worked a lot and I played a lot of sports, and I wasn't out, you know, cutting a rug every night or anything. So, but most actually the girls, they were girls then, that I went out with were all pretty great people. Um,
Well, that's nice.
yeah, yeah, and I would hope to think they would say something about me kind of similar. We were all pretty nice to each other, and we had a good time, liked to laugh. Um, yeah.
Hmm. Well, I loved hearing all of that. I mean, that was such a cool thing. It is
Uh,
different, like it was more you and your friends going out and, you had a lot of people around you. You got to meet a lot of people. So it was really cool to hear all your different experiences and kind of thoughts on it. And so, thank you for sharing.
you're welcome.
Okay, let's see here. Now, do you want to do the memorable life lessons ones?
Sure, let's try it. I don't know
Okay.
what I'll do.
What you'll say?
What I'll say,
Okay.
my eye is better. That's good.
Okay. Okay. Do you need a break or anything?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. Hold on, let me fix my hair. It's ratty.
I'll break off to another dab.
I hate when that happens because once it starts going, like the
Yeah,
tear.
I'm not used to it. Yeah, it is like the tear duct. No, I'm not used to it. May just be this light.
Maybe.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. Well, I have a. Well, I guess, is this going to be a separate video?
Probably, yeah, I would say
Okay.
yes.
Okay. So. Hmm. Oh, wait. If it's going to be a separate video, so then shouldn't it flip and now it's you asking me questions? Because we do every other week.
Yeah, we can do that. What am I asking you about? Life
Well,
lesson?
this is what life lesson took you the longest to learn, and if you could give your 24-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be? I
Yeah.
feel like I really want to hear those though from you, because I am 24, so like that's
Yeah,
hard for me to answer.
yeah. Hmm. Yeah, well, it's up to you. I mean, we can, um, and there's no reason I would say that if you ask me and I turn around and just say, well, how about you? What would, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Uh,
Okay.
I mean, we can just kind of, instead of just being all directed toward me or me toward you, we can kind of ping pong it back and forth if you want.
Okay. Then
Let's
do you
see.
want to kind of start this one by
Yeah, yeah,
okay, like what questions do we have today or something like that? I don't know.
yeah. Okay. Allie Grace, I've got a question for you.
Okay.
What, you're, let me start over again. Let me think of what
Okay.
I actually want to say.
Okay.
Okay. Uh, Allie Grace, I've got a question for you.
Okay.
You've lived about a third as long as I have. In fact, maybe a fourth. No. Let me start again. I got to figure this out. You're 25. No, 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 no. Yeah, you've lived. Okay. Okay, Allie Grace, I've got a question for you.
Okay.
You've lived about a third as long a life as I have.
Mhm.
So I have some questions. I'm trying to put myself back at your age and think about what would I be thinking of if I was your age, and what my concerns were at 25 or, or around 25, and what your concerns about are, I know they have to be different for all
Mhm.
kind of reasons, just history and the times we each are living in. What is something that your time here on this planet that you've learned that's at this point in your life that you really treasure? You're so glad you've gotten to this point in your life where I'm taking this with me as I go along.
I mean, A few things, right? I mean, there's been so many battles and triumphs that we've had, but I think a really big one for me is just not allowing outside opinion or, negative interactions from people, not letting that affect me in the core of me. Um, just growing up in sports and in school and all of the fun things, you can get catty with people sometimes, and sometimes people be quite mean. And so I feel like just not taking that too much to heart and not
Mm,
letting that truly defeat you is
mm,
has been a really really big one for me, and just being confident in who I am and knowing, nope, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, and if you're not okay with it, then that's okay. I'm going to keep on trucking. That's been a really really big one for me.
mm.
What about you?
Uh, I yeah, I think I share that. It's taken me a while not to care. I think I'm a people pleaser, like most
Mhm.
people are, try to be. And yeah, it directed my life before, and as I've gotten older, I've really gotten away from that. I'm not saying I'm my own man. My personal faith takes me in a direction where I never feel on my own because of my relationship with God through Jesus, and so. But I do think and I sure don't want to use the word evolve because I don't feel like I've evolved at all. But I have changed, and things do matter less to me. As you get older, you do find that things that you thought were important when you were much younger really aren't all that important. And uh, goals that you set for yourself are, are very short term, very 6 months from now kind of things. And of course, when you get to be my age, you, you start thinking about, you don't buy green bananas, and as a joke, you think about you think about not planning for this may not be here tomorrow, and right now I feel like my chances are pretty good that I'll see you Wednesday or Thursday of next week, but
Yeah.
but you do think it does change your whole thinking, and the guys I hang out with that are older, it does really color us. You think a lot about what legacy things, what you're leaving behind, uh, that kind of things, how you want to be remembered.
Mhm.
Um, I don't think anybody much anymore thinks about how many people are coming to my funeral, that kind of stuff. But I do
Mhm.
think you want, especially about family like you and your brother and sister, and you do that does really come into effect. It colors a lot of the choices you make. Uh, so yeah, it has shifted a lot over time.
Mhm.
Of course, when you're working in my work life, and I had clients and deadlines, and uh, that was kind of right here in my face, and I had to deal with that, and so that once that was stopped, I stopped having those kind of deadlines, and I could just take a breath and look around, and it does change your point of view when you're not obstructed by uh, things right in your face. When those
Right.
things move, you get a panorama view of life, and that changes literally your point of view, and I think it gives you more clarity, hopefully more clarity.
Mhm. And it really kind of like you said, like whenever you have everything right here, those are the biggest problems in the whole world. And when you
Right.
can step back from it, you're like, gosh, why did I stress about that? Or why
Oh,
was really rocking my world when this situation happened? And you step back and you're like, that was just a blip. Like that is really not the end of the world. That's just also an easier way to kind of be like, okay, there is a bigger picture here. I can relax a little bit. That's a good lesson
yeah.
to
Boy,
learn.
that is so important to learn that you can relax. It's not going to, and of course, experience is a lovely teacher because you do learn that, thing I worried about so much, it only had about a 5% chance of happening anyway. And if it did, I'm going to deal with it. So that whole, if you can, you know, your great grandmother, my mom, was she was a professional warrior. She turned pro about 13 or 14, I think. And she could worry like nobody I ever knew. And sweet, sweet. And the things she worried about was because she was so sweet and she cared so much. And she didn't worry about herself. She worried about all kind of other things. And so, and I, that's a genetic thing she passed along to me was the worry gene. But
Hmm.
I've gotten a whole lot better about just like, yeah, not that I'm not concerned, but I try not to just let that, the,
Let it
the,
consume you.
the
Yeah.
probabilities are so tiny that we could get hit by an asteroid tomorrow. I'm not going to stay up tonight worrying about, wearing a hard hat in case it comes through the roof. So,
Right. Yeah.
so I try to, I try to get past a lot of that. And it makes a difference. And yeah, I
And
think,
that's a great place to be, especially just where you're at in life, where I'm at in life. Like so thankful that I've at least been able to realize that like I don't need to worry about that or I don't need to stress about that to the max. It's a really hard thing to actually act on, but how about like if you since you're already in that place now, you're able to kind of step back, not worry so much. If you could go back to your 24-year-old self, kind of the
mm,
age that I'm at now, what would you tell yourself? Would you give yourself any advice?
um, yeah, I would. Uh, Suddenly, a whole bunch of personal things kind of washed over me, but it's true. I would make some different choices. I but I'd also cut myself more slack. That um, I would I always worried about when I was you back one of the other times we spoke. You asked me about dating, and one of the things that I learned that is really critical to me, and it wasn't. It only had to do with dating. The fact that if I was going to call a girl and ask her out for a date, I would actually pretty much write a script about what I was going to say to her because I was so terrified. And so when she would answer, I'd say, and regardless of her response, I would say the next thing, which of course made me sound like a lunatic. And
That's awesome.
I had no idea what she said, and I lived my life that way for a long time. I was so in my own script and worrying about my script and what I was writing that I didn't stop to listen.
Hmm.
And a couple of things happened in my life when I stopped and started listening, and part of it had to do with my job as an interviewer and doing things like we're doing right now, and asking questions. Um, you have to listen for the answer,
Hmm.
and then you can build on top of that answer. And when that dynamic of talking but also listening and then reacting to what that person said uh, changes my life, because
Hmm.
really and truly, I mean, I was late in life before I stopped talking and trying to get to the next thing I had to say.
Hmm.
And I'd wait for somebody to take a breath, and I'd get in there with my shot. And that was a huge lesson to start listening. It sounds so almost cliched, but it's boy, it made a big difference in my life when I started listening.
I mean, that's a huge thing. That's, and I
Yep.
catch myself doing that as well. That,
Sorry,
no,
I can't pass up
I
that
know,
help.
I know. No, I'll catch myself doing that too, especially in like an interview or for a job
Mm.
or for a conversation that I needed to prep for in any sort of way. I'll
Right.
have my mental list of questions and I will try and check them off and be like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm supposed to do this, this, then this. And I can so picture myself at a certain point. I remember asking somebody a question, they answered, and I asked the follow up question that I had in my brain, and they were like, what? Like, that's not, where are you? And I was like, you're going off script. Like, and so I completely understand what you're saying, being able to
Mm.
speak but actually really wanting to hear the person that's sitting across from you or you're talking to. That's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
huge thing.
Because, when we get to do this show, and people tell us their stories, I, my grandmother, when I was really tiny, and I hated to take naps. I didn't want to take a nap. And the only way she got me to take naps was she would start telling me stories about the ranch. She grew up on a ranch, and she would tell me these stories. I would lay down and listen to her tell these wonderful stories about horses and cows and rattlesnakes and hired hands and things that happened and riding a horse to school and all these wonderful stories, and I would just drift off to sleep. And what a wonderful way to go to sleep, listening to stories like that. And the rest of my life, I was either listening to them or trying to tell them.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's it. And
You know,
you're a great storyteller.
well, thanks.
You really are.
But another thing that we can do this all day. I can do this all day. But when I was little, my mother wouldn't let me say lie. I couldn't use the word lie.
Okay.
Nobody ever lied. They told stories. And I always found that very, very odd and kind of confusing that because I love stories so much, and if you made up a fiction, and that's
Hmm.
basically what she was saying, if you made up a fiction about something, you were lying about it,
Hmm.
and but they were telling stories, and now so much of my life is spent on either telling stories or listening to stories. Interesting.
What an interesting way to vocalize that though. Like you're telling a story, because that is a positive thing, is telling a story. And but I can also see like where she was coming from. Like you're making up a story, and so
Yeah.
that's so interesting. I usually try to I try to not say I'm a liar. I always say I'm a fibber. So
Yeah.
anytime I'm fabricating a little bit, I'll just say I'm just fibbing. I'm fibbing and try to get myself out of the situation.
The good thing about getting old is you can play the. Did I say that? I don't remember saying.
You know, I actually already tried to pull that and be like, I don't remember saying
It
that.
get that one get. That's one thing that gets easier and easier because everybody buys into it. It's like, of course he doesn't remember what he said.
I have a hard time pulling it off right now, so I'm
Yeah, you
glad I have
would.
something to look forward to.
Yeah, I can see where you would. But,
Well, I loved hearing those answers, and
well, it's always fun hearing yours too, Allie Grace. I just you energize me, and so does this show, and it's fun. I hope folks out there, not just listening to us, which we're saying, and I hope they are listening to what we're saying, but it also causes them to go tell stories, and we have folks on our shows that talk about they're sharing stories with us, and I hope it encourages them to maybe go tell a family story or some photograph that we see just fires off a memory in those than theirs, and they send a photograph to somebody or go look in that drawer or that chest and find those old pictures and maybe just spread them out for a family gathering or maybe just by themselves after it gets late and they just look at some old pictures and it just takes them back to those places where and it becomes their own story and their story becomes something that encourages themselves and makes um, the rest of life just as exciting knowing that there are more stories to come,
mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I find that turning that page in that storybook of life is just something that we all want to kind of hang on to and see because it's just such an adventure to see what kind of stories coming next, what's around the corner, what God has for us next.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great thing to look forward to.
It's
And I look forward
amazing.
to being with you again, kiddo.
Yeah, I
It's
look forward
always
to being
fun.
with you too.
Hey guys, come back and see us on Granddad and Me, and maybe I'm not dating anymore, so don't try to call
Nobody
me,
get any
and
funny
don't
ideas.
don't swipe right or anything. Just, if you swipe anything, share it with me. Take care. Love you guys. Bye bye. All right, give us a wrap, Allie Grace. Go, you do one where you just tell them goodbye and stuff
Oh,
like that.
I was like, are you gonna give me a beat? Like, what do you mean? I didn't know. I
Yeah,
thought you meant
right.
like rap. I was like, it's granddad and me.
That's right.
um,
You know, one thing I thought, now that we're over, I did think that, and I don't have any of these, but I thought, you know, what's worse than a dad joke is a granddad joke. I just thought that's funny. But
but I feel
maybe
like
I'll,
all your jokes are so good, so I don't
oh,
know.
well, maybe I'll come up with some terrible ones.
That'd be hard, I feel like, for you
Oh,
to
yeah, I
do.
don't know. It'll be a struggle, but I can try.
You could do
Anyway,
your
while
best.
we're still recording, do a wrap to just thank everybody for listening or whatever. And go ahead and do a like and subscribe. Are you
Okay.
comfortable with that
Yeah. Um,
or not?
how do I start? I'm trying to think of how I start. It's like starting a paper. I never know how to start.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have any magic words right now either. Yeah, just start talking and what what I do is I just start talking and then
Hmm.
I hear an edit. It's like, okay, here's where we'll actually start.
Oh.
So just don't tell me tell me about. Well, let's start with what we're doing. Go ahead and tell me that it was. It's always fun sharing. Hearing the answers to your questions, or I appreciate you listening to me with my answers, although I don't do that very much. But even though I talked a lot about it, I don't know what she said. She's she's
Oh
going
gosh.
to Dallas. That's all I know of that. I heard
Hey,
that
at
part.
least you remember that. You didn't know that's happening. No, thank you so much for letting me ask you all my silly questions and giving me
Anytime.
detailed answers. And I would also love to hear if anybody watching has any life advice and or something that they would tell their younger self. I would love to
Mm.
hear that. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and hopefully we'll see everyone next week.
Bye, guys. Great job, Ellie Grace. That was beautiful.
Hey, we did
Perfect.
it.
All right, let's go to Dallas.
Let's go to Dallas.